are you? A simple 3-word question that could have hundreds, thousands, even millions of answers. But more specifically, 7.5 billion answers. Whether this includes your name, your race, your gender, your sexuality, or even the makeup of your family, we are all unique. We may have overlap and similarities, but no one is exactly the same. Your identity is unique to you, unless there are 2 clones in the room that I don't know of. So, what is identity? My personal favorite definition of it comes from the University of Maryland. Identities are composed of our arrangements of many characteristics we share with others in such a way that we isolate certain ones as a basis for how we self-identify. Every day, we meet people who are different from us, and we meet people who share parts of our identity. I'd like to take a second for you to really think about what your identity is. How do you see yourself in terms of gender, race, sexuality, age, and all the things that make you, you? What are the puzzle pieces that put you together? Now, have you really ever thought of your identity in depth? What parts of yourself do you struggle to accept, or have struggled with accepting in the past? A part of my own identity I have struggled with is being biracial. For a long time, I didn't know why exactly I struggled with it, but I knew it was considered bad or weird by other kids. In my private elementary school, I'd hear the mostly white population of students calling me things like zebra or Oreo. At the time, I laughed it off, but now I realize those words cut me deeply, created a divide within me. Now, it's a part of myself that I accept more, but still have struggles understanding where I fit in or what exactly to think of my identity. What piece of your identity might you want to explore more or even challenge? Identity is ever-changing. You may think you know a part of yourself, but you really don't. For example, you may grow into a phase and then out of one just as quickly. We all have experienced some phase of changing our likes, our appearance, or even our friend groups to fit into a new part of our identity. I know I had my emo phase. I had the fingerless gloves, a dyed strip of my hair, the Hot Topic clothing, all passed down from my sister, and an intense yet somewhat artificial love for pop punk, any that I could get my hands on. You might have had yours as well, but I've definitely grown out of mine. Now that we have dived deeper into the definition of our identities, I want to pose one more question to you. Who in the past has impacted the way your identity is viewed or perceived? Is it perceived negatively or positively? I'm going to share a story of an identity movement that you may not have known has impacted the way you view your own identity or has impacted the way you view others. In the year 1968, homosexuality in America was classified as a mental illness. This provoked several treatments to cure those afflicted by homosexuality, including electroshock therapy. The illness wasn't truly taken off the list by the American Psychology Association until 1987. Even then, the World Health Organization listed homosexuality as a disease up until the early 90s. The LGBT community has consistently faced struggles of discrimination, hate crimes, and legal injustices. In 1969, a locally recognized LGBT bar, the Stonewall Inn, was raided by police. Angered by the arrests of the owner and the employees, the patrons of the bar began to fight back, breaking into the streets and fighting the police with everything they had. The police even had to bring in reinforcements for the growing protests against their discriminatory actions. More and more members of the community began to demand their rights in America. They wanted to be both seen and heard by the law. They needed to fight for their identities. Several hundreds, even thousands of people and LGBT and allies stood in the street for their lives, chanting and fighting back with everything they had. The resistance went on for 6 days of that June, bringing mainstream light to the issues faced within the LGBT community. After the movement, several LGBT rights groups began to organize in major cities across the continental United States. This was a transition into the modern movements of LGBT groups, and several today recognize it as a time of struggle and success in making LGBT rights known to the public. In pride parades today, the same large crowds fighting for their rights, like in Stonewall, continue to show up, now common not only in the US, but on a global scale. Pride parades are used as a celebration of the LGBT community, and as a way to point out the issues that still face the community. The largest Pride celebration takes place in Sao Paulo, Brazil. In the space such as Pride, members of the community are able to express their pride, joy, and struggle in a safe space. They are surrounded by others who are also proud to call themselves a part of the community. There is no way that the fight for gay rights is over, or that others feel completely appreciative of their identity in the LGBT community. But there is hope. With the legalization of gay marriage in the US in 2015 and the elections of 2 trans women into office. Yet, bathroom bills are still being discussed and hate crimes still occur. But there is no reason to give up what the Stonewall legacy left behind. The inspiration to keep fighting against the struggle for their identity. Now that you've heard the story of one identity movement out of several, I'll ask again, who are you? Do these words have more meaning now? Do they remind you of a specific movement that has impacted who you are free to be or looked down upon for expressing? I hope you walk out of this by keeping the memories of the people who fought in your heart.